Hello and welcome to another jungle video, and in this one we are going to be comparing, contrasting, and having a look at the Agurin vs Caedrel Lee Sin climbing battle. Now Lee Sin is special in his versatility, and so both junglers' unique playstyles can be used to carry and climb with ease, provided you're actually good at jungling, and at Lee Sin. This video will be broken down into 3 sections. Firstly, I will explain a bit about their playstyles based upon data, scouting, and trends. And then obviously we do need some core gameplay to see how they do it, and we will analyze 2 hard carry games that they had to show not only the different ways you can carry, but also how to impact the map when things don't always go your way. And then maybe we can have a fan vote in the comments to determine who we think played better. So as always, if you enjoy and learn something, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. The gameplay channel and Patreon are linked below. And now without hesitation, let's begin. To start out basically in frameworking this video, I wanted to collect some manual data just to get an example of the jungle differences between them in terms of game style. Thankfully, Mobalytics' GPI or Gamer Performance Index basically takes this to the extreme, and combined with their full season's worth of jungle stats, gave me a huge oversight to their unique strengths and weaknesses that backed up the initial scouting about their jungling style. On the summary profile page, you can see the difference in gank rate, you can see the first blood rate, but most important is the GPI because it shows in depth 8 fundamental skills from fighting to farming to objectives. And no surprise, Agurin fights way less than Caedrel, but farms at an almost unnatural amount more, which doesn't surprise anyone given his extreme focus on setting up second clears for fast level 6s on things like Kha'Zix and Shyvana. Fortunately, we have 2 in-depth gameplays to show how these predictions and playstyle differences hold up, and then in turn you can use that to carry, win, and climb yourselves. Don't forget, you can also sign up to use the GPI tool for yourself, as it gives a much more in-depth breakdown of each of the GPI's 8 main categories and monitor your progress throughout the season, as well as your desired elo. It updates with every game you play and gives you a skill to focus on, so keep checking back throughout the season to make sure you're on the right path. I'll leave a link down below so you can even compare yourselves to Agurin and Caedrel and most likely be shocked at what you see. Alright, ganking versus farming, map impact versus experience gains. The first 50 minutes of both of their games will be covered. Obviously, if you want to learn how to close out from these leads, that's all on the gameplay channel. I don't want to waste too much time with the macro. I want to focus on the jungling of both of them. In standard Agurin fashion, he goes for the full first clear against a farming jungler who is likely to do the same, however pathing in the opposite direction. Upon completing that top side crab, you know Morgana will be on the bottom side, and if there are no ganks to be had for either jungler, the delayed spawn time is to 2:15, means you can no longer flirt with a drive-by top lane gank and then hijack the enemy jungler's tier 2 Krugs, while they do the exact same thing on the other side. Not wasting time, he resets and will head directly to the bottom lane. This is basically because at this stage, you would assume the Morgana has reset with similar goals except for the top side. However, she decided to shadow mid just in case the Zed needed to help solo killing the Karma. He did not. She decides against going back to help her sister top lane just yet and goes directly to the bottom side, knowing Lee Sin would have reset by this time and be well on his way to the bottom lane. And of course for her, it's pushing. It's a great counter gank, but will put her way behind an experience advantage, and it will now open her to the wrath and pain that is the Agurin counter jungling and farming machine. Now remember, I mentioned he does take a lot of lane CS in his games, and you can see here holding the wave as he so often does. In other VODs, it was actually common to see him going out of the base and beelining to mid lane just to hold the wave before heading in the direction of his choice to continue farming. And now Agurin does his Krugs, then his Raptors, and while you might think, hey, free level 6 if I go topside to the Wolves and Grump, which is true, good job if you thought that, he can also achieve the same by cutting his clear and taking Morgana's bottom side because she knows her delayed back timing would force her to be behind by at least 1 quadrant in terms of clearing tempo. In this case, you could always try and sneak a dragon, and maybe I would in a lot of lower elos just to get that mental edge as well as objective control, but only if the enemy bottom lane and mid lane were in check. In this case, the enemy support sniffs this play out and decides to hit the plant, slap down a ward, and because you spend the time clearing the ward as Agurin does, they know where you are, they know what you want to do. But fortunately, his bot turned out to be humans, or at least leaders of the monkeys, and actually use a 2v1 situation to kill the misfortune. I know, right? So here again, you could still sneak the dragon the second window of opportunity, but as you can see, Agurin goes for the deepfake counter jungling mission, yoinks the wolves, yoinks the Grump, and should be able to just get up because Senna would have respawned, and Morgana, if she was sequencing properly, should be in the area, which she is. The fact that his bottom lane has prio, and it does kind of look like the Morgana simply resetting, would have given you more than enough time to take the crab and dragon. Zed is floating on the top side of mid lane, and you have a Karma, so she can very easily turbo speed over, shield you, assist in shielding the greatness that is yourself. But as you're watching, he decides to use his level 6 ultimate spike, go for the home run, and instead he's sent running home. Suboptimal, but I do understand the play. However, in your situations, if you can mechanically outplay them and they're not aware of, what's going on, if you're mechanically adept and at a decent elo, you most likely can kill them and then also get the crab and the dragon. 100% we don't want to die, but he's kind of smurfing and masters, so. Respawning, heading to the top side, this will trigger a top to bottom side sequencing because we know the Morgana will spend her time doing the exact same thing and perhaps imprison your top lane monkey for all time. You could in theory anticipate this and set up a counter gang, however, the problem is he has no flash, no ult. Therefore, this is just a safer, more objective-focused route. The top laner should ward and play accordingly, but they never do. And while he will give up his blue and the herald to the Morgana, you can still punish the center for her pathing, once again trying to ward the rivers, abuse the ADC a little bit, take her camps once more, and then you can secure the dragon nonetheless. As I mentioned in the introduction, Agurin has supreme herald control, but this game requires a different touch just due to the fact that he died on the bottom side. So literally, the objective ping pong, dragon into herald is lost because we died when we shouldn't have. Make note of that. Now this is where we turn it up to 11. Normally Agurin is really great about playing with his ultimate. If you've watched his Shyvana, you know his Kha'Zix. He doesn't have this little bit of a lull that we just had with Lee Sin from that untimely death. So this reset after that second phase will trigger a 5-minute extended sequence that will be required by farming junglers. If you are not someone who just takes outright fights and skirmishes and gangs, and you focus more so on the counter jungling and camp sequencing, securing those objectives, setting up counter ganks, then oftentimes you won't find yourself with the same goal differential as a ganking jungler that secured a few more kills and perhaps some shutdowns, but obviously your experience level should be right up there, so we need to use that in the same way that Agurin does it because he ensures he has the map control necessary to continually push the map forward, and he loves to do this through pushing waves, using the herald obviously, counter jungling and making a tent in the enemy's areas, hitting towers, cleaning up plates. The map must always move closer to the enemy nexus, and he is the bus driver. He holds top, as you saw, he gives up the Grump, that is gone, no more Grump. He'll try and secure the Descendants, of course, takes the Wolves. He knows Morgana is obviously topside from that play, and he uses a patented Agurin Lingang to take her out after a little bit of a chase down. At this point, don't go back to your jungle, don't reset, don't relax. Keep up the pressure, eat the fried chickens, try to set a trap for the Zed, but he is the master of shadows. Move mid, help push the wave and orchestrate a dive. Doesn't work out, but sometimes it does. Nonetheless, you get to take plates, you get to shove minions, all gold, all enjoyed. Now here again, don't fall back to your jungle, keep the pressure up, force the enemy jungler to not understand what to do next. Counter jungle her red, and you can see she is pretty lost about how to deal with this heavy pressure to shove towers, shove the macro state, and she's just losing out. Agurin's big brain realizes that the fight at the Rebirth is not balanced and bails, chasing down the center while his mid and top gives some more bananas to the Kayle and the Zed. Senna dies, Morgana loses another Grump, Misfortune shits herself, he pushes the wave a bit more after she does, finishes his red side, and now he can reset. He counter jungled and took camps from every single quadrant on the map, and it was very intense, and I cut it in a very short way to give you that same sensation. But that's Agurin after he's farmed and gotten an experience lead over the enemy jungler through intelligent pathing. He understands game flow. 15 minutes, 134 CS, he can now shove the mid waves with his team, he can secure the dragon, he can keep up the invade pressure, he is perma-forcing the map to bend to his invasions, forcing the enemy to react, and this will result in less ganks, less KP, more deaths with the risk, and sometimes yes, you will trade objectives, but you will always have the most towers, you will have the most farm, you will have the highest experience, and you can take control of the map heavily in the mid game. Which is what he does, and that's what you're watching at the moment. You'll see the final scorecard as Agurin dominates fights with his leads and flanks, and continuously shoves waves, picks up camps, and forces his team to be in positive positions. That little invade causing a death, not the best situation, but translated that to more leads just by taking one step back for, 18 steps forward. Now let's see how Caedrel fares in the same period, and he also will end up hard carrying this game with his own style. We can expect a lot more fighting, more ganks, higher risks, less CS, maybe some more objectives, and because it's Caedrel, some wholesomeness. Different rune set as I mentioned, much more your alpha killing rune set, and will be pathing down like the enemy rumble on the other side. Caedrel is more likely to look for an invade or 5-cam action like we talked about in the tempo on jungle roots video, but in this case his Lulu has already deceased, and knowing that the rumble will be full clearing before him, and thus having bottom lane prior for the crab, he makes the executive and big brain decision to simply reverse immediately into the opposite topside crab, removing him from the possibility of a flamey death. By doing this, you can also surprise a top lane for a gank before the crab should they be pushing, which Poppy is. And so Caedrel does what junglers do. Meanwhile, Rumble has killed the Zoe for doing Disney stuff in the wrong place. We can secure the crab afterwards. If Yasuo doesn't respect you, I mean, who do they respect? Gank mid and put more pressure on the map. But instead of knee-jerking to somewhere that doesn't make sense, Caedrel moves on down to take the Krugs. We want to get that second tier respawn in the future. We don't know when we're going to be here next. Gives him a bit more gold for his first reset, and obviously we know that the Rumble, yeah, he's going to do the very complicated jungle strategy of, resequencing everything a second time. Now in a twist of fate, he could actually decide to gank mid, which he does. And while Caedrel could decide to path top or bottom side here, these opportunistic dragons are not nearly as important as people think in general, and he does have a level 5 raptor camp. The issue is, his second tier camps are both up on the top side. You also don't want to force a dragon for no particular reason, because in this case, the Rumble could be pathing down. You want to invade the blue side afterwards because your Krugs aren't even up yet, but the enemy bot has Prio, Rumble's gonna be there. It's just a messy situation that has way too many downsides. However, jungling is not only about making the right play and reading the enemy jungler, it's also about having pathing that allows us to be in the right place at the right time. So not only can we try and conduct our game plan, but when things get a little messy by the enemy jungler's decisions, we can shut them down and shut them up. Rumble assumes that Caedrel will sequence top to bottom like a good old Season 11 jungle AI bot Udyr main, and while attempting to seize the Raptors from their true owner, Caedrel adapts his pathing, cuts his route to react and collapse on the Rumble, not giving away anything for free. Also very important, his bottom lane does decide to help out. And now because Rumble hath died, the dragon is much more within the flow of the game and pathing. As a ganking jungler who enjoys fighting and fisting, why would you just leave your bottom lane here? Don't ditch them after the dragon. If they're struggling or the lane's in a bit of a weird spot, it's kind of you to escort them back for helping you get the dragon. And if nothing else, just, kill the ADC. That's also fun. Now, I think the only interesting thing here would be to actually hover in anticipation for the Rumble, or help push a plate and wave with your bottom lane to ensure you all go back together. Purely because the Rumble's topside camps were 100% down if you were tracking active CS counts. And so he really had nowhere else to go after dying trying to invade on the Raptors. Krugs and Raptors were not up. It's highly unlikely he's going to cross country to Caedrel's top blue side quadrant to take that with nothing else up. So most likely he's taking his second spawn Wolves and Grump. Obviously the fact that he shows up, Caedrel goes back to base and the bottom lane dies, that's not Lee Sin's fault whatsoever. You have to ping them back, but, anticipating it in your elos is definitely a good play. Those sorts of counter ganks can be game winning, but obviously always assess resources. HP, mana, experience levels, when last did they go back to base, and if it's really just doomed and they want to overstay, they're gonna overstay. Right, back to base, and now we've got a lot of farming to catch up on, but at the same time, we're not interested in full clearing and removing our impact from the map. Do the Wolves blue Grump to set up a bottom to top sequence, donate the blue if you're kind, and or were a pro player, then we can look to dive top, maybe gank mid lane, maybe invade the Rumble, but if something happens like it does here, reactively path, rotate, snag a kill, and now you can snag the Herald as well. The objective ping pong has commenced. We got the dragon, we got the Herald, and I'm sure we don't want to talk about the top dive because Poppy, Yasuo, movability, shields, irritation, tilting. We'll just ignore it and classify it as an int, but the concept of the play is obviously great. You take the Herald, we can now dive top lane and then use it for maximum plates. However, this death, like Agurin's, will have strong ramifications, except with less of an impact technically on Agurin and more so here. Rumble can use this death timer to invade and counter jungle the bottom side, and when you're ganking jungler, these small deaths can add up quite a bit in terms of lost experience. Agurin's deaths were around and after counter jungling and clearing his quadrants, so there's really nothing to lose. But when you focus much more so on impact, ganking, fighting, and so on, you're more susceptible to those counter junglings when things don't go so well, and they can trigger a few events that also don't go so well. But do not fear, Caedrel will show you how to carry in spite of this. Caedrel was in theory heading to the top side, but I think realizes, hey, wait a second, Rumble will take my stuff and then dive bottom lane. That's not good. He moves to take the Krugs and maybe just shadow for a potential counter gank and then use the Herald to push the tower. The problem is the enemy team can predict this and then he will die one more time. Kind of had a decision there to make, I need to be there for my team in case Rumble ganks and dives. At the same time, we need to kind of use this to break it open. Unfortunately, because the tower's dead, the game state is elevated anyway, and again, we can move our chess pieces and now look for numbers advantages to use the fact that we do have a gold lead. Ideally with this play, we want to be able to secure the bottom side of the map, the dragon, push up the waves, look for invasions like Agurin did, look for mid lane plates and top lane plates as well. But as you see with both junglers, if teammates get caught out in bad situations, it's important to make your own decisions. It's not always good to just go down with the burning ship for no reason, because you can hold the waves, you can hold the towers, you can maybe get advantages somewhere else. It's what Agurin did and it's what Caedrel's going to do right now. You might be so inclined to go to the dragon here, once again focusing on the objective, and then everyone goes topside, start to fight, your team gets aced, We don't want that. So when we see everyone going topside and as a ganking jungler who's invested in fisting the team, you need to use your lead to cut them off and ensure you win those fights. Mechanically play it well, be the target focus, understand who you are focusing, what you're peeling, what you're engaging. The important concept here is be there when there is a game-winning fight or opportunity. Going to farm now and take your camps and not rotate is just a losing play because the Yasuo's bottom side, yes, you're going to lose the dragon, but from this fight, you can steal all of the enemy top side, punish anyone who overpushes and disrespects the map. Now you can reset, push with your team, don't go farm here. Your team's ready to push tower pressure. Don't go back to farming. I see this way too much in coaching. You have pressure on the towers, use it. Make the picks, use the flanks, have great ward control. Your team is ready to make a play, so as a golden fused member, make those plays. Their jungle is now your jungle. If you don't need to base while your team is resetting or, dying, you can fall back to your own camps, and now you can reset, and then you'll see Caedrel is 86 CS at 50 minutes versus Agurin's 134, but you would never question the impact that either jungler had on the game state and their ability to actually carry the game. Yes, Caedrel gets a few more kills in sort of team fights and using his mechanics and his skirmishing prowess, and I showed both these games not because they were necessarily perfect. I looked for some high kill games where they got MVP and seemingly had the best carry pens, but also because these things didn't necessarily always go as planned. But having a game plan, how you like to play your jungling style, that's only as good as how you can react to the map, and that is in fact how you carry games. Whether you identify with Agurin's more farm-focused style or Caedrel's more high-risky ganking and skirmishing style. But there you have it, a good stat overview of jungling style and how you can use it to improve yourselves, as well as 2 gameplays. Obviously, not the most in-depth like the gameplay channel, but at least it can show you the pros and cons of these different styles and how you can use them to carry even with the same champion. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy the content. Stay tuned for more jungle videos coming very soon. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.